What is up, YouTube? Today we are going to clean the engine of my boat. But first I want to thank you for the support and the encouragement after the video I put out a couple of weeks ago when I bought this new boat, my 1965 Cheoy Lee. Thank you for the encouragement. I also want to thank a couple of new patrons who have joined on my Patreon website. That's a website where you can, it's like a tip jar. Whenever you see a street performer, you're happy with the performance, you want to encourage the arts, you give a couple of bucks. I want to thank you who have joined on there. Actually, some of those donations have helped buy these supplies today that you'll see that I'm using to clean the boat. We'll get into that in a moment, but in today's episode, I'm going to be cleaning the engine of this sailboat. It is a Perkins 4107 engine, the precursor to the more famous Perkins 4108. But there's a couple of reasons you want to make sure you keep a clean engine. First is so you can see any issues or problems that may arise. So if it's a clean surface, you can see if something happens, like an oil leak coming down the side, right? Also for me in particular, because I'm new to this boat, I want to get in there and learn every little component of the engine, and by cleaning it is a great way to do that. I can see where everything is, where every component is, in case I need to repair those in the future, in case I need to do something in an emergency, I will know where those components are. Now before we dive in, I want to just kind of give you the layout of what we're going to be doing. Now some boats may have an engine compartment that you can get into and you don't have to worry about water issues. You could use like a power sprayer and get water everywhere. That's not our case. There's some wires I'm going to show you. There's an alternator, starter. You don't want to get wet, so I'm going to cover those with a plastic bag, and I'm going to use kind of a minimal water method for this this cleaning. I'm going to use a spray bottle, which you'll see in a moment. But the first a couple of ingredients that you're going to need to start to clean your engine. First, some of these absorbing pads would be good to put underneath the engine. Catches any of the grime, the oil that's going to come down off the sides once we get cleaning in there. Second, one of the main tools you'll need to use, an old toothbrush. Okay, another tool, an old paintbrush, or not even an old one. I bought this from the Dollar Tree. It is just a little kind of stiff bristled paintbrush. We're going to use that. So this will be actually helpful because once you get into some of those areas that are going to be hard to reach, you can go in there where this is not able to get, you're able to get in there with this and clean it up. So these are the two main tools you're going to use. Let's talk about some of the other ingredients that I have laid out on the deck. So first I've got some of your, just some regular engine degreaser. I'm going to use minimal of that. Simple green. You got your dish soap here. I got a spray bottle of just water by itself. I've got a wire brush, a bunch of shop towels, some rubber gloves, some plastic baggies, and then I've got for afterwards, I got some corrosion inhibitor that I want to put on after. I've also got a bucket of some kind of soap water that I'm going to use to kind of clean my rags. I've got a couple rags also that I didn't have down there. A couple rags that I'll use. So let's dive in and get the engine compartment open. Also an important thing to do, I'm going to unplug the boat from any shore power. I'm going to take off the circuit breaker. Make sure nothing is running on the electrical when we get in there. And one of the cool things about this boat is it has a really great access point to the engine compartment right here. Literally has a big manhole cover that you can get down to right there. All right, so check this out. See if I can show you there. That's the rear access, but before I jump down there, I want to go back into the cabin and take off the stairs from the companionway, which underneath that is the other access point to the engine. All right, so I've opened the entire engine compartment up. I've got the cockpit area opened to the engine, and then I've got, obviously, this is the main compartment to open. So I'm going to give you a visual. A couple of important things to note. You've got the alternator wires here. This is the alternator. And then you've got your starter back here. And these wires you want to make sure not to get wet, as well as these. And the other thing to look for is going to be the air intake, which is right here. You don't want to get that really wet either. So I'm going to protect kind of some of these areas down here by putting a bag down there. It's just, I'm covering those electrical parts that I mentioned, just enough to make sure my spray doesn't get into it, right? So what I've done is I've created a little umbrella right here. So that's the alternator in there. But I've covered this back area, which was all the wires and things. Let's get some water going for some soapy water. All right, let's get some soap in there. Let's see, I'll use the old soap that we're almost out of. First, I'm going to actually spray some degreaser just in certain areas. Okay. And then I'll be able to get that I'll wipe that off as we go. And I will make this into a little soap action. Okay. I'm just going to go to town on this thing. And you see some corrosion here, so it's a good place we can add our anti-corrosion material at the end of our project. Here's where we're getting more into our dirtiness back here. So and that's where I put that degreaser. So you can see that's coming off nicely. A lot of grime back in there. Alright, so for some of these areas that are kind of hard to reach, I'm going to spray some of this degreaser, and then I'm going to spray it off with water. Okay. I'm going to get in there with my towel and just wipe down these areas. There's some more corrosion on the water pump, so we're going to put some of that anti-corrosion on there. Now that I've scrubbed it down with the degreaser, I'm going to put some, this is just water in a spray bottle that I'm going to spray to kind of dilute the degreaser and make sure it doesn't damage any of the rubber components, but also to just wash off any of the excess grime that's still on there, but it's appreciating. As I'm taking care not to spray in the area of the alternator starter. It's already looking a lot better. You want to obviously get down and dirty with your hands and knees, get into this bottom area that you can't see from sitting up. Really look down, because a lot of that oil is going to be obviously the lower location. So get in there with your rag, get in there with your toothbrush. Okay, looking good. So I'm getting the middle area also. Obviously you want to get the whole engine, but I started at the front, and now I'm getting the middle. All this that I can reach here from this front section from inside the cabin. I'm using a kind of a combination of cleaning products. A little bit of the degreaser, a little bit of the soap water with toothbrush action, a lot of these towels, and I'm even going to do some of the simple green to see how that might work as a combination. That's your air filter right there. You don't want to get a lot of water near that, but so right now, you know, we have our electric system off, so even if we were to get a little spray on some of the wire connectors, as long as we're not going to start the engine for a couple of hours after this, which I don't intend to, it'll give it time to dry and you should be fine. You just don't want to, you know, really soak any of your wires or your electrical pieces, especially the alternator and the starter. Alright, so I'm not going to be able to get back there in that region until I get to the back, but looking pretty good so far. I've got a couple of kind of down in these crevice areas I still have to get, so just keep plugging away. Alright, I'm going down. So this is obviously the rear compartment underneath the cockpit that has more access to the back of the engine. So, okay, going down. All right, here we go. A close-up look here. Okay, let's try some water and see if some of this goes away. clean there, but we need to do one more pass through. This is a good spot for using this paintbrush, because then you can get in there and really get into those hard to reach places that you can't get with the toothbrush. And still, just gonna go over it a couple more times. It's looking a lot better. Looking a lot better. I'm sure there's some more I could do. You can see there's a little bit in there. Much better than before, for sure. So now I'm going to go through in any of the areas that are badly corroded. I'm going to use the wire brush and try to get some of that corrosion off. And as I mentioned, that'll be some of the areas where I'm able to put some of that anti-corrosive spray. Alright, so for some of the corroded areas, I'm going to go ahead and just apply some of this. This is the first time I've used this, but I've got it was recommended, at least a similar product. So it says here, heavy duty corrosion inhibitor. Shake well before using. Mask area not to be coated. Spray in light, even movements for thorough coverage. For heavier film, additional coats may be applied. Looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to keep scrubbing a bit more, but as you can see, a major improvement from where we started. Thank you for watching. This is not really that difficult of a project. It looks a little more intimidating at first, but once you dive in, it's actually not a bad project at all to go in there and clean your engine. Subscribe if you haven't already. That's another way you can help support my channel. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Now, the importance of having an engine that is clean.